packets again?
You didn't get anything?
No, I didn't get a chance to. It's fine.
All right, let's get started.
Yeah, I know, but
Good morning.
no eating
afternoon.
for us.
Welcome back to the Board of County Commissioners Workshop of February 27th, 2024. We have the issue that we set aside for after lunch. I know we're all feeling a lot better, ready to move on with 4B, Overview of Governmental Center Renewal Replacement Projects. So, staff, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, good afternoon. This is Mia Gala, Assistant County Administrator and FDO Director. With me again is Sergeant McClellan, Director of FDO's Strategic Planning, and we've made it to our last item of the day, workshop-wise for FDO, not the board. We are now transitioning to this final effort. This time, we would like to provide the board an overview of the Governmental Center Renewal Replacement Project. This item has the dual purpose of fulfilling board direction received on January 23, 2024, and seeking board direction as to the path forward. During the aforementioned board meeting, while addressing commissioner comments as to the possibility of relocating the governmental center to the Westgate area, the board directed staff to provide a report on the status of the project. To do so, we deem it appropriate to commence with a historical overview. Eric will take the lead in summarizing the project's evolution through current status and financial estimates.
Thank you, Ismi. Good afternoon, Mayor,
Good
Vice Mayor,
afternoon.
Commissioners, Administrator Baker. This 12-story facility comprises approximately 300,000 square feet for general government and constitutional officer operations, and when placed into service in 1984, accommodated approximately 500 employees in addition to the points of public service and assembly. So how did we get here? Since this facility is in downtown West Palm Beach, that was a key decision made by county commissioners in the 1980s that have for decades now steered county facility planning efforts. In that time frame, the board also approved siting the main county courthouse, now known as the Judge Daniel T.K. Hurley Courthouse, in downtown West Palm Beach, as well as the providing countywide general government operations from the Airport Center complex, located on the west side of I-95 between Southern Boulevard and Australian Avenue. Those decisions were reaffirmed in 1994 in a series of workshops focused on county facility master plans. Moving on now to the current renewal and replacement project. It began as an initiative within the infrastructure surtax or IST project list that was supported in 2016 by the voter approved ballot measure. The scope of work represented at that time was replacement of interior building systems on 5 floors that had to be deferred during the recession of years prior, as well as renovations in only key areas of the building for improved functionality. Cost of temporary space accommodations for operations displaced throughout the project implementation phases was included. As with all of the IST projects, need was validated by independent assessments and reports, and cost estimates were based upon historic information and institutional knowledge since no formal design effort had yet commenced. So upon commencement of work on the IST project plan in 2017, the project was funded at $26 million with allocations scheduled in FY22 and 23. During the re-estimation efforts in 2021 and 2022, the board approved a revised budget of $69.5 million to account for escalation as well as increased scope of renovation responding to the building's 40 continuous years in service. Since no design had commenced, that budget figure was informed by comparable data from the PBSO headquarters R&R project. In 2021, a request for proposal, or RFP, was issued to retain both design services for the project, as well as construction management at risk, or CMAR services. And following competitive proceedings and comprehensive discussions regarding the project scope, approach, and alternative possibilities, the board approved a contract with Netta Architects, LLC, in July of 2022. In December of 2022, the Whites Company was awarded a contract by the board for project CMAR services. And using that contract, an amendment was authorized by the board in February 2023 to replace flooring on this facility's 12th floor. Then in July 2023, the findings of the structural assessment for this building were presented to the board and resulted in direction to proceed with the programming effort and explore the ability to expand atop the 6th floor exterior patio outside of this chambers. Also in July of 2023, design services needed to renovate the 4th floor space occupied by the Information Systems Services, or ISS department, was approved by the board. In September of 2023, staff and NETA commenced stakeholder engagement to inform programming. And in November 2023, during a workshop meeting on capital projects, staff informed the board of need to increase the project funding by $33.7 million to address continued escalation in the market and the envisioned additional scope of work. That all brought us to January of this year, when board direction was issued to provide a report on the project and to consider the possibility of relocating the government center to the Westgate area. As for current status, the programming phase is essentially complete, yet design drawings have not yet been prepared. However, construction drawings for the authorized 4th floor ISS renovation are 95% complete, and the flooring replacement on the 12th floor is complete. All planning work to date entails an investment of almost $721,000. With the benefit of programming information, staff requested updated cost estimates from NETA. These costs are reflected on this slide and include all furnishing and soft costs based upon typical conditions and assumptions. You can see the complete building renovation is estimated at $128.7 million, and that is in present day funds. Renovation with a 40,000 square foot expansion is estimated at $160.2 million. By comparison, building a replacement facility with the same 40,000 square foot addition is estimated at $260.9 million, while an additional 20,000 square feet for a 30-year planning horizon, typical of our approach to new construction, is estimated at $276.6 million. Importantly, none of these figures reflect the cost of real estate. Should board direction create need for a transaction that entails cost? And likewise, no structured parking is included if construction were to occur at a site remote from this location and necessitate same. Given current market conditions, we would estimate $23 million to create the 650 space parking structure that currently serves this location. I'm now going to return the floor to Ismi for the remainder of staff's presentation.
Thank you, Eric. During the January 23, 2024 meeting, the board also directed staff to research if the county seat could be extended outside the municipal limits of the current county seat, West Palm Beach. The matter of the county seat is governed by Section 138.12, Florida statutes, as shown in this slide. The statute provides that the board may expand the limits of the county seat as it determines appropriate, as long as it follows the statutorily required process, including adoption of a resolution after holding at least 2 public hearings that have been noticed in a local newspaper. As previously stated, direction provided to staff during the January 2024 meeting was rooted on discussion addressing Commissioner comments regarding the possibility of relocating the governmental center to the Westgate area. Westgate is a community revitalization area and primarily residential in nature, and this slide shows the boundaries of the same. County-owned real estate in Westgate falls in one of 3 categories: unimproved Department of Airports property, public parks, and improved sites. Included as attachment 5 to the workshop item is a full list of county-owned real estate in Westgate. The remaining real estate that might appear to be of sufficient acreage to accommodate a new governmental facility is in private ownership. This slide shows just a cursory review, and I can only emphasize that so much. It does not include every single property we own. Those are included in the attachment. But was intended to provide the board an overview of airport property, parks property, county-owned and improved property, as well as to highlight some of the privately owned properties that appear to have sufficient acreage. And we have not completed any analysis as to what level of acreage will be needed should this facility were to be relocated. I do want to take an opportunity to highlight a few things about airport properties. We would like to note that those properties have been retained for future airport uses, including relocation of the airport's maintenance compound. This will allow the ability to make additional aviation facilities and land available. Future airport uses must be in close proximity to the airport. Furthermore, airport's property is restricted to airport-related uses and its disposition subject to federal regulations. Therefore, if the board were to direct staff to pursue construction of a new governmental center facility on Department of Airports property, disposition of the same will require prior approval by the Federal Aviation Administration and compensation at fair market value. Amongst other matters, to obtain FAA's approval, the county will be required to show that the subject property is not required for current or future airport operations and that the disposition of the same will not negatively affect the airport. Staff notes as well that a portion of the property at the end of runway 1432 is within the runway protection zone and cannot be used for any purpose other than dry retention. Also, the Department of Airports property in the vicinity of the airport is subject to height limitations so as not to interfere with airport operations. If the board were to direct staff to pursue siting of a new governmental center facility on privately owned sites or property, acquisition of that real estate will be required. There are several matters that staff would like to bring to the board's attention as it has this topic under its consideration and evaluates possible next steps. As Eric stated at the beginning of the presentation, this project has been in the works for many years. Not surprisingly, several steps have been taken that, although not directly related to the project, were meant to facilitate the same. In May 2020, the board approved an agreement to lease office space to temporarily relocate the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office operations while the PBSO headquarters building was undergoing renovation. The lease included an extended term to support the relocation necessary as a result of the governmental center renewal replacement project. At the time, the county agreed to fund $1.3 million in landlord's actual costs and receive up to $1.28 million in rent credits over a 60-month period. To date, the county has recouped approximately $767,000 of that investment. Depending on board direction, termination of the lease will be required, carrying the possibility of lost rent credits. In September 2020, the board approved an interlocal agreement with the City of West Palm Beach, which provided for amending the city's development regulations to provide for reconstruction of the governmental center in the event of destruction and for the transfer of development rights for the county to use on Block D, which we often refer to as well as the 4th Street parking lot. The new judicial facility is meant to be built on that property, and the TDRs that were transferred through the interlocal agreement were meant to facilitate that construction. In consideration for those two things, the county conveyed at no cost to the city 45 county-owned lots within the city's golf course. In June 2022, the board approved the final report of the Palm Beach Judicial Facilities Master Plan update, which provided for judicial facilities needs into year 2040 and allocated the use of Block D, or the 4th Street parking lot, for the eventual construction of a new judicial facility to house family and juvenile courtrooms, along with office space for the judicial partners. In December of 2022, the board approved a lease extension through December 31st, 2026 for the existing Supervisor of Elections warehouse in Riviera Beach. The lease extension was intended to provide for the continued support of SOE operations until its relocation to the new SOE production facility, which is currently approaching the end of construction. And upon vacating by the SOE, transition that facility into a dual warehouse to be used by the county's Fire Rescue Department and the Facilities Development and Operations Department. The latter was intended to accommodate the equipment and file storage necessary during the relocation of the governmental center occupants as a result of the renewal replacement project. For the past few years, as additional considerations for this board, for the past few years, due to the impending project implementation, staff has been intentionally delaying, when possible, and without impact to operations or safety, required renewal and replacement work at this facility in order to pursue the most efficient use of county funds and to avoid any potential lost investment. Staff expected that NETA will complete design in approximately a year after completion of the programming phase, allowing for permitting and construction to proceed immediately thereafter. If the board were to direct staff to pursue a different course as it relates to this facility until said new path comes to fruition, and depending on the time it takes to do so, staff will be required to invest in additional maintenance and upkeep of the facility in order to ensure continuity of operations. Additionally, the parcel on which the governmental center is sited is shared by the historic courthouse, the latter of which is subject to a restricted covenant tied to grant funding for its past renovation to historic specifications. If the board directs staff to pursue any course of action that entails disposition of the governmental center facility, staff will require further direction as if to include the historic courthouse or not in that transaction. And also, we will require direction as to include, if to include, the governmental center garage, which, as you know, abuts the governmental center parcel and is used to support the GC operation, but sits on 3 different parcels. And that sounds a little bit convoluted, I know. In determining if to include the historic courthouse, staff recommends that the board also takes into consideration that the same qualifies as a transfer of development rights sending site. Staff estimates that the TDRs associated with the historic courthouse portion of the property are equivalent to approximately 180,000 square feet. A comprehensive analysis will need to be completed following direction from this board to further refine this figure and fully inform the approach forward. If the board directs staff to pursue acquisition of privately owned sites or property in Westgate for the construction of a new facility, public ownership will remove that acquired parcel from the tax rolls, thereby having a potential impact on the CRA's income stream. If the board were to direct staff to pursue construction of the governmental facility on a privately owned site, acquisition of the real estate will be required, which entails additional time and staff resources to achieve that end result. If the board were to direct staff to explore a public-private partnership, disposition or exchange of the current facility, an associated real estate or a similar contractor framework, in general, and this is just a general statement, a public competitive procurement will be required. There are some exceptions. If the board directs staff to pursue any approach that does not entail renovation of the facility, the contracts that we currently have in place are for renovation, which means they will need to be terminated. All that said, staff is requesting board direction if to proceed with the governmental center renewal replacement project as currently approved, or if to pursue a different path as per board direction to be provided. This concludes our presentation, and we will take any questions as you deem it appropriate.
Thank you so much, Isami. That was very, very informative. I want to remind my colleagues that we have another very important meeting that will begin at 2 o'clock. So we will proceed in a, not a speedy, but certainly with the idea that we need to close this up by that time. I'd like to recognize 2 constitutional officers here. We have our property appraiser, Dorothy Jacks, and our tax collector, Ann Gannon, is present. So I'd like to proceed at this time with any questions to the staff. We have, how many, Commissioner Weiss, how many cards do we have? We have 1 card. So go right ahead, Commissioner Baxter. Would you rather, okay, very good. Is that okay with you, Commissioner Woodward? All right, very fine. I'd like to recognize, well, I'm sorry, go right ahead. I'm taking your job away from you.
That's all right.
Go ahead, Commissioner
We don't need
Weiss.
any more jobs.
We don't need to.
Dorothy Jacks, Palm Beach County Property Appraiser. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. It's delightful to be with you. I'll keep my comments as brief as I can. I think you'll all recall when I spoke to you in June of last year, I think I might have started the ball on this, that we would love to move for various reasons. Just to give you a frame, I occupy about 50,000 square feet in the building. I occupy 34,000 on floor 5 and probably another 15,000 on floor 1. Floor 1, we have all of the southern end of the building. We have both our homestead exemption section there and our public records section as well. I think we are probably the largest resident of the building, possibly your own staff being larger, but we're the largest otherwise. About 180 of my 220 staff are here, so 180 are coming in here. Most of my staff live west and north and south now. Very few of them live in the eastern corridor. That might have been different 20 years ago, but certainly now affordable housing in this county that's nothing, no news there. People are living in Royal Palm Beach, Green Acres, Palm Springs. Some of them live in Port St. Lucie. Some of them live in Jupiter, Delray, Boca, but they're not living on the East Coast. So getting here for them is a struggle. Every day it's multiple trains. It's the 8:30 rush. We do start at 8:30. We're a public office. We're meant to be here when the public needs us, so we get here at 8:30 and work through till 5 every day. So they are involved in the probably worst of it, as everyone else is trying to enter and exit the downtown. The public also, of course, are not coming down here anymore. The parking situation has gotten pretty bad. Most of the first floor of our government center garage, which used to always be sort of dedicated to public visiting the building, is now full of construction workers. I don't know if you've noticed that, but it's construction trucks all day. I've actually, because I've had some surgery, been parking in the handicapped lot on the 4th Street lot, similar issue all day. It's construction workers who are working in the buildings around us. So it's hard for the public to get here. When they do get here, they're confused by the traffic flows. They're confused about where they're supposed to park, and then, of course, they run into time problems with the meters, et cetera, et cetera. So our public go into our other offices. Let's face it. I think the numbers at this office are now 4th. After South County, North County, Royal Palm, then West Palm, then Belglade. I do just want to say that this idea of moving into the middle, certainly a little, well, it's not the middle of our county, but certainly further west onto the other side of 95 is very attractive to me on an artery road, so that our staff coming from the west could get there easier. Our staff coming from the east, obviously with 95, could get there easier. But, certainly that's in your court as far as where we go. I do also think that the renovation to this building planned is going to be incredibly disruptive to all of us. I can imagine a multi-year project with jackhammering and banging and so forth while my appraisers try to get their work done, while we remain in the building, even until the time when our floor is up or our 2 floors are up. It's going to be incredibly disruptive to the staff who have to remain in the building while the other floors are renovated or added onto. I know that many years ago, Audrey Wolf had told me that the plan was that the county government center, when this building had lived its elapsed life, would move south of the airport. I believe it's onto the land where there's a famous golf course now, but, and I don't know if Ms. Baker remembers that, but I do remember discussing that with Ms. Wolf probably 25 years ago, that the plan was to move the government center west. That land's obviously no longer available, but I would just sort of add that for context, that this is not a new idea. It's just, now it's a question of where do we find the land to put it. And finally, just in my role as the property appraiser, I would remind you how valuable the land we are sitting on is. And any concept of being able to use that to allow for the revenue to be generated to build somewhere else or swap or whatever you want to do is a part of this conversation. This is the moment when this downtown land appears to be really hitting a high in its life. And I would just point that out to you. This is a large piece of land. It has incredible views. The air rights over the school, over St. Anne's, were sold many years ago, so that building will not be going up any higher. There is value to that in this property, and I just throw that out to you as your property appraiser. And that's all. Thank you very much. I know you're limited in time. I appreciate the few moments.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We have another card.
We have, I don't see her. Where is she, Ms. Gannon? Oh, you're recognized.
Good afternoon. I'm Ann Gannon, the Palm Beach County Tax Collector, and I'm limited in time because of a doctor's appointment at 2 that I've had for 3 months, and I'm not canceling it. So, and I didn't come to whine or complain, but I think that we have some very special challenges in this city. And my biggest complaint is the lack of coordination among the state, the county, and the city with traffic issues. Of our employees getting in and out of this city is very challenging. In fact, you could probably hear me curse every morning coming to work because I always get a street that they don't give you any notice for, to tell you you should go another way. But I also want to share with you, it's very difficult to hire people to come down here. They don't want to come to this city and work. There's no parking. Our clients find it very difficult to park because we're always, and I understand we're now getting rid of another parking facility over here. It's difficult for us to imagine that we could actually hire enough staff downstairs to serve the people that we really need to serve in this area because of the inability for adding those staff because of the lack of space downstairs and the way it's configured. Because we have worked, prior to working with Audrey and Isame, we worked with another architect, and it's almost impossible to rearrange that space downstairs and add 6 or 8 people, which is probably what we need to be able to meet. I got complaints from commissioners previously that we had lines that were downstairs blocking the access to get into our building. So there are a lot of problems from our perspective. And I think there just is like a lack of coordination about how this whole center works and fits in the city of West Palm Beach and in the county, because this is the county seat and it's very challenging. And I know that my good friend Commissioner Sachs lives in South County, as I do. Many of you are more fortunate, and Commissioner Woodard. We're all on the same road. That doesn't matter when you leave to come here, there's always a traffic jam on 95 for whatever reason no one can ever figure out. But the challenges that we're gonna face during the reconstruction of this building, I can't move half of my 3rd floor to another floor. They are interdependent. They work with each other because of the kind of work they do. We have a mail room that needs to be with those people all the time. We feed work in from that mail room. And for those of you who would like to come down when we're in high tax season or business receipts tax season or TDT, you come down and we'll show you how it works. It flows the way we've set it up. So that's gonna be very difficult, a real difficult challenge for us to put half of our staff on another floor. That's not very productive. And we have no idea how long it's going to last. So I will share with you, we have looked for other space to move west where we could get in and out of our building much easier and serve the public. And as many of you know, this is the county seat, but all of our other offices had resolutions passed to allow us to operate in spaces other than the county seat, and those work well, and many of you did that for us. So consider the trade and what it means to people who actually use the government facilities here, use our services, what it would mean to them. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Always good to see you, Ms. Gannon. You'll make that doctor's appointment. All right, Commissioner Bernard. Oh, Commissioner Baxter was first? Very nice.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mayor.
Baxter.
Do we happen to have an aerial of this building that you had pulled up?
Go forward, I don't know how to go back.
No other cards, right? Good.
There, perfect. So some of the things we were discussing, I've never seen or heard anyone approach, and I found this out very recently. We own the 3 acres just north of our building, like bought, paid for, owned, and
That's
that's
what-
supposed to be the future expansion of the courthouse, right?
Correct. I didn't mean to interrupt. My apologies, but yes.
No worries. And so there's several issues that I've heard, and again, from Ms. Jacks and from Ms. Gannon. And thank you guys for coming. I don't think we can address traffic, but one of my concerns, and I will preface this with saying, I think all of this will be done after we are no longer here. So I don't think we have any personal input into this as far as when the space will be completed. But I will say, I didn't like when I heard about the FAA regulations being next to the airport. I wasn't a huge fan of that. So then I started asking questions. What other property does the county have? Because that is the most expensive part. I mean, land in Palm Beach County right now is so expensive. And all of the, I think, concerns could be addressed if we were able to, in one of 2 places, I guess would be ideally just north of us, that 3 acres, and then that would leave this available for the expansion of the courthouse, so that we're not moving in and out of this building. And I think anyone knows that's ever gone through a renovation, you run into things in walls that you could never plan for, see. No matter how much testing, studies are done, that's a huge potential of a problem that can add unforeseen costs and delay projects a very long time. And so if we were to also move to that, would it provide enough space for us to build more public accessible parking for people and employees to be able to better access it? Have Ms. Gannon, Ms. Jacks be able to set up their space as they would deem appropriate with an amount of space for them and their services, because it isn't just the commission in this building. We have several other services. During our discussions, I know I had mentioned this briefly, you said it would cost more to build new, but do we really know that if we don't know what the end cost will be of renovating, because we don't know what we'll find in the walls, is one question. And 2, my other question is structurally, are we planning long-term, longevity? What are we looking at as far as how long this building would last us to then pass this on to another commission in future years going forward? And if my fellow board members are not in favor of staying downtown, I would think a more appropriate place would be near our building department. I don't know what's available over there, but somewhere near Vista instead of near the airport, where we don't have to deal with FAA regulations, where then it's still kind of county facilities in an area. So, but I think this one, we've had a lot of business partners reach out in the community that said they specifically leased or bought space downtown to be close to us. Then we up and move. Again, we won't be here when this all happens. But I would have liked to have at least seen this be an option instead of floor by floor, moving out, disrupting everyone's workflow. I do know there's an added cost, but I think we'll get that back in longevity of the project. So
Okay.
I'd love to hear from you.
Did you want to respond, Samir?
Yeah, I think I have a few questions to answer, right? If I track that correctly. Couple things, let me do my best to go in order. For street parking lot, or Block D, as we call it, has been evaluated to place to site
the judicial facilities expansion along with a garage, right? That building is meant to have two things, offices and courtrooms, right? So to answer your initial question, we have not done an assessment as to the possibility of siting this building there, but given that we have confirmed we can site the expanded judicial facility, I can only imagine it will fit, and it will fit with the garage as well, because we had already planned to do that with the judicial facilities. As it relates to using this facility, this building, for then the judicial need, that we have not assessed. We know this building can be renovated. That's the first step we did. The one thing that will be missing, that we will need to take a step back and analyze is, can we fit courtrooms here? Okay, that we don't know. And the layout required for a courtroom is different than the one you need for an office, right? I'm not saying it cannot be done. I'm saying we have not.
Before you move on, but when would they be looking at an expansion? What year are we talking?
We're talking year 2040, so it's not even part of our CIP right now.
Thank you.
Okay. We do ask
2040.
as to long-term planning for this building before we came back to the board to confirm that the building could be renovated. We task per direction by the board, and also staff needed a confirmation, right? NETA architects with doing a full assessment of the building. So they have confirmed it can be renovated. Whenever we pursue a major renovation, we're looking to a 20, 30-year outlook, right? So the idea is to renovate it so that it can continue to carry operations for the next 20, 30 years, and that's why you see the added square footage, okay? I will never represent that we know everything in a renovation project, because that will be just naive of me. I have gone through one too many renovation projects to know that we will come across our prices. It will happen. But we have, along with our architects and consultants, done our best and continue to do our best to minimize the potential surprises, right? To the extent that we have done some destructive testing just to validate what's behind the walls, right? We have not fully demolished walls, but we wanted to do testing just to make sure what we cannot see at face value. As it relates to the estimates that were included in the agenda item came directly from our architects, right? They have been reviewed by staff, but they were prepared by NETA architects. And they're the consultant that is under contract to do precisely that, right? So that's why you see that there was some additional refinement between the staff report that was prepared and the presentation that is being given today, because we continue to work with them and question and challenge. That's our job. The numbers that were being presented with the goal of trying to make sure we will present to this board as refined a number as could be possible, knowing that we do not have construction drawings, we do not have full design. We are at the phase of almost finishing programming. So that's where we currently are. As it relates to the relocation, our plan had been to remove one operation from the building. And notice that I'm keeping it very generic because we never made it to decide which department it's going to be, right? But our idea was, let us remove someone from the building and use that space after renovated, kind of our rotating space, right? Because there's no way we can renovate this building all 12 floors at the same time. We will need to do, we ambition, 2 or 3 floors at a time and then rotate throughout the building. Construction is construction by definition, right? We will do our best to minimize impacts, but I can certainly not represent that it will be transparent.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I mean, we're going to move on now to Commissioner Bernard, always respecting our time constraints.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. You know, I'm the one who brought this matter.
We know.
I brought this matter up, and I want to thank Isami and Eric for bringing this item to us. You know, I see that, you know, on slide 23, it's asking for like board direction. You know, I think that this is really, really premature for us to really give board direction. The reason why I'm saying that is, you know, last week, myself and Ms. Baker and Mr. Rudder, we had the chance to meet with the Frisbee group, and you know, they presented to us you know, some of the work that they're looking at with the Kennel Club, which will be coming in front of this board sometimes in late spring and in the summer, and looking at some of the things that, that they would like to see that, for the Kennel Club. I know for me, it's just that I didn't get a chance to meet with Laura Beebe, and, I believe that, there are a lot more discussions that needs to be had before we can really analyze whether or not we would look at, moving the county building. I think that what I would like to be able to do is to really continue to have some conversations with Ms. Baker, some of the other departments, FAA, to really bring back to us, like what can be done, if there's anything that can be done. But also, I just want us to be mindful of the fact that, this project started as a rehab of this building, which started as $26 million, and now it's ballooned to $128 million, and plans have not been completely finalized yet, which means that, as we know, that the $128 million will probably balloon to over probably $200 million. So knowing that that's probably what's going to happen, I just think that, I wouldn't say we need to stop what they're doing, but I just think that we just need to continue to flush out, is this the best way for us to spend, taxpayer dollars on a building? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Marino, Vice Mayor Marino.
Well, Commissioner Baxter and I had the similar thought. When I looked at this property, I looked at the property to the north, and so basically our building and that property is 3 acres. There's plus or minus. The property north is plus or minus. The property where the parking garage is and the 2 other pieces, which is a total of 3 pieces, is roughly an acre. What I envisioned was, and this is like starting all over again. I'm so sorry. But instead of renovating this building on the north property, put a parking garage that will accommodate what we need. Put the judicial on the bottom. Put us above the judicial. Then we can dispose of this property. Now, I don't know what we do with the historic courthouse. I don't know what the ramifications are of that, what entitlements are in place, and what historic preservation there is in place on that. But taking that piece out, which looks roughly to be about 1.5 acres, it's still roughly 3 acres that can get disposed of, which is roughly what we would be putting a building on the north side. And if we did that and we had the judicial on the first floor, then we haven't added benefit of security before we walk in the building.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. I think all the thoughts being presented are really interesting and probably do require further discussion. Let me throw one more thing in there.
Sure.
Since we're going to throw the kitchen sink in. The idea of relocating the property appraiser and the tax collector over somewhere by the Westgate property, to look at pursuing that. If I was looking at when property appraiser Jax had mentioned, if she vacates this building, that's 50,000 square feet. That's about, we were going to build another 40,000 to accommodate future growth. So that means we could, by relocating them out of here, not that we would miss them, but that it would provide for easier access for their employees, for the visitors, because that is most of the visitors coming to the building. Quite frankly, I wish they were all coming to see me, but they're not. That it would provide for that, and also create the square footage without having to build additional square footage and save us some money there. So maybe just another way to look at this as we are trying to noodle our way through this all.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. Actually, I really like the idea of looking at relocating. I think we have a few other areas or properties that we maybe could relocate our 2 constitutional officers. I think the clerk would need to stay here anyway, just to be close to the courthouse. And the idea of moving to the north parking lot is very interesting, because then we could just move ourselves over when it's ready. One thing I did want to address, which was brought up, was the transportation problems that we have. I know several of us, we all deal with this. And something as we move forward, we need to consider. We're encouraging our developers to focus on transportation options coming into the city. And I know the city is doing some work with their CRA as moving people around. But if we could somehow, there's been talk of partnerships or buying passes through Tri-Rail or any number of other ways to get people to come into downtown or any of our downtown areas. But I think that's something that we should look into, because anywhere where someone could park somewhere else in the county and we could get them here without having to drive would be very beneficial, and it would also help us with our own parking. So
Very good. Thank you so much. Commissioner Baxter, and please be cognizant of the time. Go right ahead,
I was
Commissioner.
saying, I would also support having the judicial system on the first floor.
Okay.
property
We all
line.
like that security, don't we? I just want to say this before we close it. I agree with many of my colleagues when it comes to moving some of the constitutional officers that have public, a lot of, public play with their offices to areas that would be better suited for their constituents or consumers. And I also think that we need to, as I said this morning, we need to plan for the future growth of this county. I also remember that there was a county commissioner who came from Boca Raton who used to take the train every day here. I won't mention any names without his permission, but I guess that was maybe a 3-4 block walk, I'm not sure. But I think we need to focus more on our public transportation here. And I know that we need to focus more on getting our information to our constituents by using our good means of telecommunication to them, because I think the old ways of coming and feeding a meter and everything may be certainly 20th century. So with that, I think we do need to give you some direction. So with that, at 1:53, Commissioner Bernard, would you like to propose some direction, since really this was your idea and I want to respect that?
To be honest with you, I think that we're all over the place. So I believe that this is something that we just need to continue to have a discussion.
Right.
And right now, I wouldn't say we've agreed on anything, but I think county staff has heard some of the suggestions regarding
Maybe we've
the
agreed on
3-acre.
not agreeing to
Yeah.
something and to continue the conversation.
So if I may ask, just to make sure we do the right thing moving forward, I'm gonna put a stop for the time being on the renewal replacement project and come back with feedback on the topics that were discussed. I'm looking for
Yes, please.
confirmation.
Yes, if
Okay.
I may, I don't want you to stop on the renovations for this building, okay? I think that that's something that's in place. I think that you can continue your research on how we can have greater space and take care of our, I'm just me speaking here, personally, professionally, I think we're fine. I don't think we need any great renovations in this building. I think we're looking at budget, at money spent. So as far as I'm concerned, I go along with some of my colleagues in terms of continuing this conversation in the months and the ensuing months going on. And I think that Commissioner Baxter, you had your light on?
Just for clarification, I think what we're asking is, we don't want to do the full renovation. You had mentioned maintenance of
Correct.
this building in the meantime, but not wasting money if we haven't all decided on that path forward, and bringing us back options, and maybe sooner than later, so this doesn't get.
And that's precisely the clarification I was looking for. Maintenance and upkeep, we continue to do every day, right? But I do have a design project in place that I stopped for a little bit until I came back to the board. Next phase will be this actual drawings, right? So what I'm hearing from this board today is, don't go to the drawings yet.
Yes.
Address the topics that we identified to you today, come back with some feedback, and hold in abeyance that design process until we give you further direction as to what you will pursue.
Further
Did I
information.
get that right?
Well, let me
Are you-
recognize our county administrator.
I'm looking at this, are we clear on the steps we're in today? Not to start the design, but to complete what we've got on the table today and then come back to the board before we ever start the design drawing?
So we're currently at the end of programming. What
Okay.
will follow,
Complete
which we
programming.
have almost completed, it's basically pending final
Okay.
report. My next step will be to proceed to conceptual
Okay.
drawings. And what I'm hearing is, stop for a minute, go research, and then we will determine if to proceed with this project or not. Daily maintenance, we will continue to do, because
Okay,
we
very
need to
good.
keep operations.
Just, I know we're good. Vice Mayor?
I'll be brief. If we were to put the judiciary here, remove the tax collector and the property appraiser, and they went somewhere else, would that allow us to dispose of the northern property?
I don't have
And then that's revenue for us.
I don't have the precise answer right now, but would like to
Add
share
that
with
to
you.
your list.
Okay, would like to share with you something. The TDRs, if I may, the TDRs that we obtained from the city as part of that interlocal we mentioned before, were meant to be able to allow us to build the judicial facility that is needed, 2 additional floors, going over the height limitations. So I think we'll be challenged to accommodate this 300 square feet building plus the judicial on just one site. But we will do the research and come back.
Very good. Commissioner Baxter, you have 30 seconds.
Super quick. So I know OEBO is here to also answer that question. Does anyone object to maybe having them go up with us to the IST conversation and answering it after we finish with that?
I'm sorry, who is here that you want to?
Remember, they were coming back with answers.
Oh, okay. I'm referring now to our county administrator who set the 2
It's still-
PM.
Maybe we could just.
How long, Chief, you come on, okay, but I just want to make sure that that's part of the public meeting that we started initially here, so we are not in adjournment. We're going to continue till we hear from their testimony, although that'll be upstairs. And then at that time, I guess we'll have to bring the clerk with us.
You're announcing that you're moving to a new
Site, yeah? venue?
site for the remainder of the
fine.
meeting. That's okay.
Okay, as long as the clerk accompanies us, so it's part of the workshop on the record, I have no objection to that whatsoever. Okay? Very good. Thank you, Isame. Thank you very much. We are in temporary recess.
Upstairs.
How are you?
Yeah, we got it.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Doesn't light up, should it light up? Wouldn't you think it would light up?
Testing, 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm going to use my outside voice for a while until we get this working. So we're going to proceed right now with the order of business for the Board of County Commissioners Board Meeting of February 27, 2024. This is a joint meeting. We're calling it today, Tuesday at 2 p.m. And I'm calling it to order, and if I could have the clerk do the roll call at this time.
Commissioner Burnett? Here. Commissioner Baxter?
Here.
Commissioner Bernard? Vice Mayor Marino? Here. Mayor Black?
Here.
Commissioner Wise? Commissioner Woodward?
Here.
As the commissioners come forward, I'm sure the clerk will note them for the record. And if we could have a roll call of,
I do.
very good, you go right ahead.
Thank you. Manager Leandre Camel.
Here.
Mayor Steve Wilson.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Molly Young.
Here.
Mayor Chelsea Reed.
Here.
Mayor Michael Brown.
Here.
Vice Mayor Kim Glass Castro.
Here.
Attorney Keith Davis. Executive Director Richard Radcliffe. And I'm Julie Botel, President of the League.
Very good. If the clerk has noted everybody present, I know there were two commissioners who came in a little late, we could have an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. So, is there someone here who would like to do the invocation?
Mayor Wilson.
You're on, Mr.
do
Mayor. Oh, I know your invocation.
If you guys don't mind, we'll just do a moment of silence, okay? And pay tribute to the highest source. Moment of silence, please, for the invocation. All right, thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you.
If anybody cannot hear me in the back, just raise your hand. I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to hear and to be recognized. I'd like to approve the agenda, the adoption. If I could have that motion at this time?
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Very, very good. See that, is there anybody opposed? See for the clerk that it passes unanimously. Moving forward on the agenda, we have the introductions. And why don't we start with my left? Sir, why don't you go ahead and proceed?
Leandre Campbell, City Manager, City of South Bay, also Secretary Treasurer for the Palm Beach County League of Cities.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner?
Commissioner Baxter, District 6 for Palm Beach County.
Steve Wilson, the Mayor of the City of Belgrade.
Greg Weiss, County Commissioner, West Palm Beach, or Palm Beach County, Florida.
Molly Young, Mayor of the Village of DeQuesta, and serve as the first Vice President of all Palm Beach County League of Cities. Second Vice President.
Michael Barnett, Palm Beach County Commissioner, District 3.
Sherry Brown, Director of OFMB, Palm Beach County.
Todd Von Laren, Assistant County Administrator.
Dave Behar, Assistant County Attorney.
Keith Davis, Davis and Associates, General Counsel for the League of Cities.
Michael Brown, Town of Hype Biloxo, Mayor.
Marcy Woodward, Palm Beach County Commission, District 4.
Kim Glass Castro, Vice Mayor, Town of Lake Park.
Mac Bernard, County Commissioner, District 7.
Chelsea Reed, Mayor of the City of Palm Beach Gardens and First Vice President for Palm Beach County League of Cities.
Vice Mayor, my voice, sorry. Vice Mayor Maria Marino, my district is District 1, Palm Beach County Commission.
Richard Radcliffe, Executive Director, Palm Beach County League of Cities.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, for being present, and being ready to discuss what's on the agenda today. I'd like to pass not my microphone certainly, because it's not working, but the gavel to our County Administrator, Virginia Baker, and then we're going to hear from Sherry Brown and Todd Von Laren when it comes to our infrastructure surtax.
Thank you to my board as well as the League of Cities. Thank you for being here today. We did get a request from Richard, which we were trying to set up a prior meeting. That timing did not work out so well. But Richard did submit a request that we meet together. So I went to my board and they did direct me to set up this meeting. So we're here today to primarily discuss the infrastructure sales tax. What we want to do, because a lot of our board, some of our board I should say, was not around when we did the initial sales tax. And some of you are new members as well. And so we're going to have Sherry and Todd lay out what the state will allow us to do as far as discretionary sales surtax. And then we'll move into the discussion, give it back to you, and then we'll move into the discussion.
We just want to say thank you for having us here today. You know, we have direction from our board to have this conversation with you to pursue the possibility of this infrastructure sales tax. And so we very much appreciate your taking the time to meet with us today.
So this is a very important topic.
And I'm going to move out of the way.
Oh, no, okay, all right, very good. Okay.
Oh, okay. I don't have to move. Good.
Okay, yeah, you stay close. We're going to get this thing going here. Okay, Jill? Yes, it is. Okay, we're going to start with Ms. Brown first, or Mr. Bonlaren, whichever you prefer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Madam President, members of the boards of the League of Cities and County Commission and staff. First, wanted to just share in front of you the packets of information that you have. We put together just a brief executive over of what we plan to do today in our presentations, and this joint meeting is convening of the League of Cities and the Board of County Commissioners to seek direction on the continuation of the countywide local government infrastructure surtax. Included also in this packet, you'll find in there the PowerPoint that we'll be going through briefly. You'll also find a copy of the ordinance back in 2026 when this item was brought before the Board of County Commissioners.
2016.
I'm sorry, 2016. That's the expiration date, supposed to be 2026. We'll get to that in a minute. In 2016, and that is the language that appeared on the ballot in November of 2016. We also thank Richard, who did a nice compilation of the status with most of the cities and where they were in resolutions that they were offering in support or other direction on the continuation of the infrastructure surtax. And then also a number of the cities provided some project lists that they were looking to include in this packet as well. And you'll find those in alphabetical order of those cities that have provided some of those particular projects for their municipalities. So we wanted to just talk about this discretionary sales surtax and give you a little bit of history on it as well. It obviously came before the board back in 2016, and at that time, both the League of Cities, the Board of County Commissioners, as well as the school district had come together to seek a 1% sales surtax, so a 1 cent sales surtax. And if you go to the next slide, the Florida statute gives us some discretion locally on different types of sales surtaxes that are available to us under statute 212. There's 9 different types of surtaxes. We'll go over some of those today. They might lead to additional discussion as well. But particularly in statute, it discusses the rate at which some of these surtaxes can be imposed, whether that's a half cent, a cent, or up to a full cent. It will share with you a little bit about the maximum length, if any, that you can have some of these surtaxes in place. And then it will give you those procedures by which you need to secure voter approval for doing that. And then also it'll get very specific about the nature of the proceeds that you may be able to expend those particular pennies on.
So the surtax is the same as the state sales tax, the 6% state sales tax, except that the surtax only applies to the first $5,000 of a sales price of a tangible personal property. So when you go out and buy a car, you spend $50,000 on a car, you're gonna pay 6% on the full cost of the car, but only 1 cent what we have today for the, up to the 5,000. So it's an additional $50 for those purchases above $5,000. Many items are exempt: groceries, baby food, formula, medicines. There's some exemptions now with the commercial real estate property, transient rentals and services. That was kind of new from our 2016 when we were doing this back then. And one of the biggest selling points is that the surtax stays local. It stays within Palm Beach County, so it's collected in Palm Beach County, comes back to Palm Beach County. Just included in here, just as an FYI, the discretionary sales surtax is in all of our counties except for Citrus and Collier. So all of the other counties have some form of our sales tax or surtax. You can see that some counties have 1.5%. We are here in 1%. I always look at like Hillsborough as similar to Palm Beach County at 1.5%, Broward to our south is 1%, Martin County to our north is 0.5%, Orange County's 0.5%, Pinellas and Miami-Dade are in the 1% category, some of our other that we look at.
So we want to get into a little bit of some of the different infrastructure or different surtaxes that are available discretionary in statute, just so you have an understanding of what they are and what their uses are for. So we'll start off with the local government infrastructure surtax. That is the tax that we came together to discuss today, and this is what is in place in Palm Beach County. You have the option of doing either a 1/2 cent or a full cent of that infrastructure surtax. And much like what we've done here in Palm Beach County, we entered into an agreement with the school district, the League of Cities, and the county on how that distribution would work. You don't necessarily have to have that agreement if it's just the cities and the county. You can refer back to the description model that is put forth in statute about how those allocations would occur between cities and counties. But mostly that is done by municipal population and county population. So that's how we got to the 60-40 split, which is roughly about what that split is today in terms of incorporated versus unincorporated population. A majority of the vote of the electors must vote in order to pass that local government infrastructure surtax. And then specifically when you get into what the uses are for that, two of the main ones are those next bullets. One is to finance, plan, and construct infrastructure. So it really gets in there about the construction, financing, and planning. It doesn't talk about the operational side of that because that is not a use that's allowable under the infrastructure, just mostly on the capital side for financing, planning, and constructing. Likewise, the acquisition of any interest in land for public recreation, conservation, or any type of natural resources is another larger use. And then the next two bullets are ones that are maybe not done as much because one is to provide some loans and grants and rebates for residential and commercial property for energy efficiency improvements, and those are based on improvements per referendum in those local governments as passed by their electorate. And then finally to finance or the closure of county or municipal owned solid waste landfills. So just so you know, on this particular one, there are 27 local governments that are currently levying this particular infrastructure surtax in the state of Florida as of 2023. Statute doesn't specifically prescribe a duration to this, but our attorneys have been in consultation with some of our outside attorneys who have recommended a 15-year period on that. But again, that's one of those things where there is a little bit of gray area in statute about what we might be able to do in terms of duration of that. For purposes of ours, you know that ours was put in place for 10 years, from 2016 to 2026, or until such time as we collected a certain amount of money, and then it would be sunsetted. The next surtax is the school district levy. This is one that may not exceed 0.5%. This again has to go to the voters and put in place by a majority vote of those elected. It is also shared with charter schools, so a portion of the dollars that are collected go to charter schools. It's imposed by the district, and the county's role is somewhat ministerial in terms of getting that on the ballot. The school board has indicated to us, and they have moved forward with a 1/2 cent school district levy that they would like to put on the November ballot this year. They have forwarded their language to the county attorney's office, and we anticipate that going back before the Board of County Commissioners in April of 2024. And that is just specifically for their 1/2 cent surtax. And just to kind of caveat on that, we'll talk about some of the time frames of these in a minute, but by doing that, the school district sort of gets within the time frame that we'll go over of this having to go to APAGA for the performance audit, that they will do an overview of that and then provide them that audit back no later than 60 days prior to the general election. But the school district levy specifically is meant to fund fixed capital expenditures for the construction, for the reconstruction or improvement of school facilities and campuses, and also for the retrofitting and providing of technology implementation. The other tax, and this is one that I think that has been spoken about some with our board, your boards, and the TPA, is that of the transportation system surtax. In the state of Florida right now, there are 3 counties that currently are levying this tax, Miami-Dade County and Duval County and Broward County. Broward has a full cent that they levy for this, and then the other 2 respectively have a half-cent tax for this transportation system surtax. This can be levied for up to 30 years, and then the county can distribute those proceeds from the tax to a municipality, as well as to an expressway or transportation authority if there is one that's created in that area. Again, it has to go to a majority vote of the electors. And then it goes into some detail here about some of the uses for this. So again, you can use this like the infrastructure sale tax for planning, development, and construction of certain infrastructure, but this goes beyond that by allowing for the operation and maintenance as well of that infrastructure. It can fund bridges in the county, can plan for the planning, development, expansion, operation, and maintenance of bus and fixed bus guideway systems, and for the planning, development, construction, expansion, operation, and maintenance of on-demand transportation services, as well as for the payment of principal and interest on bonds issued for the construction of fixed guideway, rapid transit systems, bus systems, roads, or bridges. And so the primary difference between, for example, the infrastructure tax and the transportation surtax is one is primarily capital. The transportation allows for capital as well as operations too.
So the next one we'll just throw out real quickly, high level. There's an indigent care and trauma center surtax which is available to the county. It's really to fund healthcare services, and since we have our own healthcare district in Palm Beach County, it's probably not something we would consider at this point, but it could take a supermajority vote of the BCC or majority vote of the electors. I just threw it out there since it is eligible. There's also a pension liability surtax. It really doesn't, we don't meet the prerequisites, even though if we did, it would be something that we could look at. So I just wanted to throw it out there that that is one of the 9 that's eligible to Palm Beach County. Next is the Emergency Fire Rescue Services and Facility Surtax that is eligible here in Palm Beach County. It could be up to 1%. It would be shared with any municipalities providing emergency fire rescue services. It's approved by a majority of the voters, and it can be used for fire rescue services and facilities, so both operating and capital. I think Liberty County is the only county in the state that has moved forward with this surtax at this time. And then the other 3 that we didn't throw up on the screen are, there's 2 for small counties, and there's 1 for a hospital surtax, which only Miami-Dade is eligible to use those, and since those didn't apply to us, we just left them off there, but there are the other 3.
So our current infrastructure surtax that's in place in Palm Beach County is a 1-cent sales tax. The prescription that we put on that when it went to the voters was for this to be a no more than 10-year tax that would be imposed on everyone who purchases goods within Palm Beach County, both residents or people that are visiting our county. But the one component of this that we provided in there was when we put forward our plan for that infrastructure surtax, both from the cities, the county, and the school district, that plan was a $2.7 billion plan. And therefore, we told the voters, and we wrote into that ordinance, that when we reach the collection of $2.7 billion, if that was before the December 31st, 2026 sunset of this, that it would expire sooner and sunset sooner than that. So based on some of our current projections that we are seeing, it is expected that our surtax will end a year early, and we believe that we will meet that $2.7 billion threshold by September of next year for that to sunset on December 31st of 2015. Another component that was created as part of this under that ordinance was that each of the separate 3 bodies were to create a citizen oversight committee to review the spending just for compliance with some of those approved projects. That was a method by which our voters would know that an independent group of citizens would be keeping an eye on that, and that we would continue to spend it on the items that we asked the voters to spend those on, unless that citizen advisory group agreed to do something differently and forward that to the Board of County Commissioners. The distribution, we spoke about that a little bit earlier, but to just go over that, the 1% would be distributed and is distributed as follows. The school board gets half of that, so 50% of that. Palm Beach County gets 30% of that, and then our municipalities get 20% of that. I mentioned that that 30-20 split is that 60-40 incorporated versus unincorporated, and that agreement we brought together because there's multiple parties. Again, if it was just the cities and counties, that agreement could defer back to statute in terms of that distribution method and model. The ballot language that we wanted to share with you, this is the language from November of 2016 when we went with the school district and the cities and counties. And just real quickly, we're obviously limited by the number of words that we're able to put on a particular ballot, but the language was to enhance education by improving district-owned school buildings, equipment, technology, and security, purchase school buses, public safety vehicles and equipment, and equip, construct, and repair roads, bridges, signals, streetlights, sidewalks, parks, drainage, shoreline, and wastewater infrastructure, recreational and government facilities. Shall the county levy a 1-cent sales surtax beginning January 1st, 2017, and automatically ending on or before December 31st, 2026, with independent oversight by citizen committees. So obviously trying to get a lot of information about what we're trying to do with this encompassing surtax to the voters so they have as good an idea as possible when they go to the ballot box of what they are voting on.
All right, what I live for is all the numbers. So this is the countywide collections to date. In 2017 this is based on a calendar year. So the 2017 collections really represents 10 months of actual cash collections because the tax started in January. So as we went shopping in January and paid sales tax, those stores sent it in February, and then it came back into the local economy, back to the governments in March. So that's why there's 10 months. So you see a 32% increase in 2018, just numbers to numbers, but that's because it's comparing 10 months to 12 months. In 2019, we did still see an increase above 2018 of 4%. In 2020 with the pandemic, that's where we saw a 5% drop. And then coming out of the pandemic in 2021, we saw a 20% increase. Then we still saw another 19.5% increase in collections in 2022. That's when I decided, after almost 30 years of doing finance and government, that I have no idea how to project revenues anymore with the pandemic. And then in 2023, we saw a 4% increase, which I think is probably a little bit more realistic from year to year. So to date, through the end of 2023, we have collected as a county $2.2 billion. For us to end it 2 years early, we would have to collect another $500 million between January of this year and August. And we would probably have to increase almost 48% higher than the same time period as last year. So I think it's pretty unlikely that we're going to do that. So I would see it ending in 2025.
So the last slide that we have prepared for you is just one related to timeline and then potential next steps. I mean, obviously, we're here today to get some board direction to determine what something might look like if there is a will to move forward. So clearly, we wanted to lay out all of the different opportunities that are, but still specifically focusing on the infrastructure surtax that's in place today. Our partners that are here, obviously the school district, and thank you, Richard. I know that this is something that Ms. Baker spoke very early on with Richard about whether there was a want or desire of our municipalities to move forward with that surtax. And Richard has spent some time with all of you in the municipalities. So to date, 27 municipalities have passed resolutions in support of the continuation of the infrastructure sales tax. 6 are pending right now, agenda items. 1, there's no formal support either way. 4, no declared action, and 1 municipality who did not pass that resolution. So getting into the timeline here, because we recently received a letter from the school district indicating that it was in their opinion that they wanted to move forward and felt like timing-wise it was going to be difficult in order to meet, some of the timing to do that. We have a little bit different opinion in terms of the timing in order to do that. If we were all to come back together again and do it, obviously, if we do all come back together as school, city, and county, we don't need to go to OPAGA and have to go through those specific timelines. We can just move forward with the ballot language as it is, going to the supervisor of elections. But in order for us to do something different than what is in place today, so if cities and the county wanted to go separate from the school board and any other changes that might be there, essentially our Board of County Commissioners would have to consider approval of the ordinance and ballot language in roughly April of 2024. The reason being is that we need to provide the Office of Program Policy Analysis and Government Accountability, OPAGA, the language, the ordinance and resolution calling for that referendum at least 180 days prior to the election, which is May of 2024. And so again, it's not needed if the current IST continues as it is. So that process, once it gets to OPAGA, is that they will have 60 days to contract with a CPA firm. That CPA firm then has up to 60 days prior to the general election to publish a performance audit where they will review the program that we put forward and potentially any other past programs that might be a part of that. And then we have to provide the supervisor elections with ballot language in August of 2024 to eventually meet a date of November 5th, 2024, if there is going to be an item, a question on the general election ballot. So, Madam Mayor, Madam President, that is just some overview of what we have in place.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Todd.
Mr. Bonler and Ms. Brown. I'm going to always defer to President Botel here. I think that at this point, if you look at the rest of the documentation that you have, it is in small print, and it's the ordinance. So we can look at that and review it at a later time. Right now, let's open up the board for anybody who may have any questions or comments. Looking at the page that we just finished on, we took, if you look at timeline and next steps for board direction. And President Botel, would you like to add anything to that at this time?
I just want to say thank you to all of the members of the league who are here today to support this endeavor and have this conversation. As you can see from the document that Todd referenced, many of our municipalities have already voted in favor of supporting this infrastructure sales tax. And we really wanted to hear today from the county commissioners, is there an interest in working with us to make that happen? So I'd love to hear from the commissioners on that.
Very good, very good. Okay, so I'm going to open up the board, so to speak, for any county commissioner who would like to speak. And I'll start with Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, can I be heard? God has spoken. I would just like to start, I'm on the TPA board with several of you, and I'm also on the Tri-Roll board, and I've had a number of conversations with our neighbors to the south about the transportation surtax. Infrastructure surtax, I know that it's needed, and there's a lot of projects that we have, but I'm wondering how much conversation you've been able to have about the difference in the two, because transportation surtax gives us the ability to leverage funds that are out there right now that we can't even apply for. So the return on investment on a tax like this for our taxpayers is significant. Our neighbors to the south get a seat at the table when it comes to applying for grants from the federal, from the state government that we can't even apply for. This also can be used for operations and maintenance, which the infrastructure sales tax cannot. Yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, I don't know, my times runs together, we had a meeting with Broward and Miami-Dade discussing how they did this exact same thing and how they're able to use it. One of the big takeaways that I got was how much they worked with all of their cities to make sure that every city was able to participate in this, that it was used across the board in the counties. And it's issue for us. I know several, we talk about it. In fact, our last workshop, traffic was like the number one concern about what we were talking. It's an issue in the county. It's moving north. Miami-Dade and Broward has a lot of traffic issues. We know. I live in Boca. I drive up here. It's a quality of life issue. I got to tell you, it's rough. And if we are going to try to tackle this, we're in a sweet spot right now in the county. I think we have a lot of development that's coming. This particular transportation surtax, I believe, I would urge you all to consider it, that this is the way that we should move forward. And it frees up money that we're using right now on our roads to do infrastructure. There's big discussions to be had, but I think if we can move forward, cities and counties together, and put together like a real master plan for what transportation looks like in Palm Beach County, how we move people around, it opens up options for mobility within our towns. And we, as the county, have the chance to make sure we move people from city to city. And once we get them to your city, you have a chance to actually look at what transportation looks like within your town. We're talking micro-mobility, bike lanes, a number of different opportunities that this gives us flexibility to pursue. So I'd just like to open the floor with that and hear what anyone else has to say.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Do you mind if I go last?
Oh, not at all. Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. All right, so in 2016, the voters passed for us to do this discretionary surtax. And it was supposed to be for 10 years or, whenever we reach that $2.7 billion, which, as Sherry mentioned, it's supposed to sunset around December 31st of 2025. We've collected about $2 billion from our residents. And so the discussion of whether or not we should create, continue this surtax, I don't support it. And I believe that we need to give our residents a break. And, there's no real plan in regards to how we're going to use these dollars. So I believe that the best thing for us to do is do not move forward with this surtax. The school district, they have the right to do this school district levy. They've provided a letter to us, to the board, that would, for them to raise the half a penny surtax. And, I support the school district because they're limited in regards to how they can raise revenue. And we need to, and especially, of course, in his letter, Mr. Burke had mentioned that, they've had to share some of their discretionary surtax with the charter schools. And so I support the school district, and, there should be a discussion in regards to doing a transportation surtax. And I believe that it shouldn't be this year in 2024. I think that it's best for us to really take a step back, look at how do we address transportation for our residents in Palm Beach County, work with the League of Cities, the TPA, and for us to create a plan that will address transportation needs for our residents. And however, if we decide to get the other additional penny, it will limit us in regards to how do we fund the transportation surtax in the future. So I believe that we shouldn't proceed with this discretionary surtax. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Vice Mayor Marino.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me? Okay. I, too, am not in favor of this surtax. And when I look down the list of municipalities that have passed a resolution in support, they are the smaller cities. I don't even know if they'd be able to get the 50%, to go over the 50% benchmark to carry this. But I believe a break to our constituents is what we need to do. That's why the county did the largest tax rate cut in 30 years, millage rate. And so I don't believe that we should be passing on another fee to our residents. Let's give them a break, let it sunset. Because if we do, in fact, put this in place again for another 10 years, then we can't even talk about how we're going to handle transportation for another 10 years. And I think transportation is one of those key items that we talk about and need to actually do something about. So I'm not in favor of this. when I look at the list that, of people that have passed resolutions, there are indications of interest, but that's different than passing a resolution. Most of these who passed are smaller cities. I'm not in favor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. And Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, I look at this list and I see a number of the municipalities that I represent. They're listed as support, but they have not passed resolutions. And so that's concerning to me because I don't know what that means. If their boards have not taken a stance on this, I think it's premature to say that they're support. I'm sure their administration support it, but as I would assume most administrations would support having additional funding. We did tell the taxpayers that this was going to sunset in 10 years at the most. I would ask a question of our staff. What's projection for 2025? What do you expect we're going to end at?
Yeah, it'll go all the way through December 31st, 2025. The tax always begins on January 1 and ends on December 31st. You can't stop it in the middle, but once we reach 2.7 billion, I will let Department of Revenue know that we've reached it, and it will sunset December 31st.
And what do you think the actual collection will be by December 31st?
2025, I don't know that I brought it with me, but it will be more than 2.7 billion. So,
Correct. And I share the concerns of my colleagues in regards to transportation. I think transportation looking forward is going to be our biggest challenge. I shouldn't say our biggest because we have a number of them, but one of our largest challenges, continuing to be able to move people so that we can absorb the growth that we're going to have to absorb to continue the good economic development that we'd like to continue to have. I think it's going to be important. I think that we made a promise to the voters. I didn't, but I believe previous boards did that, and I think we need to be clear with that promise. The other thing I didn't see in this documentation, and I appreciate all the cities contributing, but how many of them completed all the projects that they had initially put forth? How many of those had actually been completed? And how many are these on new projects as well? That would be another question I have on this. But I think at this time, it's not, I would much rather us be focused on looking at a transportation surtax, getting a plan together that we can go to the voters for. I think, and I think partly one of the things we need to be looking at is, if you're not having to fund your roads out of your ad valorem dollars or, any of transportation related, and I know a number of the municipalities now are getting shuttles and other things going on that, that you can fund out of a transportation surtax, which would then free up money for other capital projects, so should they wish to pursue them. So that's my comments.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Weiss, Commissioner Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I have a question for staff. The school board is going after their own half-cent. What happens if it turns out the Board of County Commissioners, and it sounds like it, doesn't have the stomach to pursue this renewal? Where does that leave the cities in pursuit of their 20%?
Leave them nowhere.
Yeah, essentially, in Palm Beach County, it's up to the Board of County Commissioners to bring forward an infrastructure sales surtax to the ballot. And it could take the form that we have it in currently, or the form of just shared between the cities and the county in that regard. So I think the options are limited in terms of, whether a municipality or municipalities can go out on their own on that. There is provisions in statute that says when you have a majority of municipalities that representing a majority of the population of a county that vote in favor of moving that forward, that it can go on the ballot. I don't know that all of our cities collectively meet that threshold or not. We can flush that out a little bit more with legal, but, that's one way that statute does prescribe when a majority of cities passing resolutions, like resolutions that represent a majority of the population within the county.
I'd like to recognize President Botel to respond to that issue, Commissioner Barnett, and we'll get back with you.
Thank you. I wanted to say that we had a briefing this morning before we came up here from our attorney on that topic, and perhaps he can enlighten everyone. And I think it's basically what Todd just said, but Keith?
No, Todd's exactly right.
Yeah.
The other path would be that municipalities representing a majority of the county population would have to adopt a uniform resolution. And if that happened, then it would go on the ballot. But the big question is, what does the municipal population can make up in terms of the entire county population? If it's even over 50%, then realistically you'd have to have almost every municipality adopt that uniform resolution to move it forward in that way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Day. I think we ought to continue with Commissioner Barnett. Do you have any other
Well, it seems
questions?
that the cities wouldn't be totally out of the game, considering that most of this sheet here is green in support, or yellow is yet to consider, is on their agenda, scheduled to be discussed. But when I was first appointed, I said I would never support a tax increase, and I've talked to people inside this room and outside this room who consider what we're doing today to be the creation of a new tax instead of the renewal of the IST. We haven't finished collecting that $2.7 billion. I think I've heard it said a couple of times. The projected date to completely collect that $2.7 million is December 31st, 2025.
Correct.
Would it be premature to go ahead and ask the voters to tax themselves again, considering we haven't finished collecting that $2.7 billion? I mean, is there legitimacy to the argument that this is another tax as opposed to the renewal of the current tax?
One of the, that issue has come up a number of times, and so you can kind of, you can frame it however you like, but I think by and large, where you have seen an infrastructure surtax in place in counties throughout the state, when they have gone to the voters to ask for renewal of that, it has really been posed not as a tax increase, it's just a continuation of the existing tax that they continue to levy. But again, it's sort of all in the eye of the beholder and how you want to frame that argument, but it's not necessarily asking them to tax themselves more than they currently are being taxed today. It's just asking them whether they're okay with not, I guess, getting a reduction going forward and just maintaining it at the current level.
This is a tough decision for me because of my stated position, but also I have cities, 3 of them in my district, that have passed resolutions of support, and I know other commissioners have cities that have done the same. And we're always talking about District 3, how we're being overlooked when it comes to resources and financing for very important infrastructure projects. I'd like to hear what my other fellow board members have to say. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Barnett. Now, I think Commissioner Baxter, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, have been weighing this back and forth quite a bit. As most people know, I think my district has a lot of infrastructure needs. But at the same time, our residents are hurting. They're struggling already to pay for just basics. And so I keep going back and forth. I've heard from my cities, my mayors who would really like this to go through. And then I come back to, and I have some questions. How many projects were, I guess, originally through the county supposed to be on this surtax? How many were designated, Ms. Baker?
Right, so just for Palm Beach County, not for any of the cities. Our plan has 413 projects. We have completed 128 to date.
and many more. I didn't take account of how many are started or in works, but as we met in January, our plan is funded, and we have plans to complete every project on the list.
Commissioner Baxter, I'm sorry. The projects that we gave to the public, identified as projects we would be expending these dollars on, we have not changed any of those projects. And I brought to the board recently during our budget process a means in which to get those projects done. So we are doing exactly what we told the public we would do with those funds.
Thank you. And then to comment on some of the surtax versus the infrastructure tax versus the transportation tax, can both of those be spent on roads or just one?
Yes, they can both be spent on roads, but just one can be spent. The infrastructure one can be spent on the planning, the capital side of roads, and infrastructure can as well, but there's more flexibility on the transportation side in terms of the operational component of it.
Because historically, until Commissioner Woodward had pointed out the availability of making more dollars available with that, I've never been in favor of an independent funding source for transportation. It always seems to come back up in conversation. Is that what this would be?
You're talking about
In terms of a dedicated funding source for transportation?
So transportation surtaxes, when they're in place, are considered dedicated funding sources for transportation purposes. And I know that Commissioner Woodward had mentioned in her comments about our neighbors to the south that have dedicated funding sources of transportation surtaxes, and those are recognized by the state and the federal governments as being dedicated sources for grant purposes, et cetera, and moving forward, which is why they have access, I think, to other resources through that.
I've had such a hard time with trying to treat us like we are New York City or Chicago or someplace that has 10,000 people per block or so. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but to the point of, the transportation and dedicated funding sources has never sat well with me because we are so spread out. I have a hard time believing that a mother is going to take her stroller and kids to a bus station, to a trail station, to load on it. If they have to drop their kids off at school or get anywhere, I just don't see our residents using mass transportation because we don't have the density. We're very large. We have population, but we're a very spread out county. So I have a hard time with that overall. I mean, the fact that it can be used towards roads and, things that actually people transverse on, I guess I wouldn't eliminate it as a possibility, but not something I would want to support today. To the idea of what we're here to talk about, the surtax. So, I mean, with 413 projects, only 128 complete, we are 8 years in. I can't see going to the voters, really, and being able to justify asking them to pay for another penny because we haven't even completed the 413 total projects yet. So I do agree with taking a break. I do agree with when we say, or previous boards have said, we'll let this sunset and this isn't a forever tax going on and on and on. I agree with not doing that to the taxpayers. Because, again, we are still there as far as not completing projects. I would say in the future, if these projects get complete and we want to ask the taxpayers in good faith to do that, I wouldn't, dismiss it forever. But I think at this time, with the lack of completed projects, I just can't, in good faith, go forward and ask them to step up and pay another half cent. I'm sure the school board can move forward with their half cent if they like, but I with all the roads that I need in my district and projects, and we have all these capital improvement projects that seem to be coming up, I feel like I incline to want to, but again, there's no way I can do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxter. Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. Just in continuing the conversation on, I guess some questions to my friends, our municipal partners. You know, we're political creatures, clearly, and this is a political decision. And my question is, as far as I know, who is going to run this campaign? I've heard no discussion of who is able, willing to fund and run a campaign to support a continuation of this tax. As far as I've been told by the people in the business community that I speak to, there's no appetite by them to do this, and maybe you all have some different information you're willing to share with us.
Did you want to respond to that? Either Ms. Brown, Mr. Bonlaren?
No, it's not them.
No? Okay.
I asked for my municipal friends.
Oh, your municipal friends. Okay, very good. Very, very good. Yes, I see that. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, I don't mean to offend anybody, but I was born that night, but not last night.
I've heard that.
I'm saying that for one reason. Now, I heard maybe 3 or 4 of the county commissioners who I dearly respect, you guys. But you guys continue to make the statement, give the people a break. But in the meantime, what happened to these cities that are falling apart, that need the capital improvement? What's happening? Palm Beach County is the fastest growing county in the state. I always say, if not the country. And we need the help. And we're sitting here as if there's a magic wand going to come out. What's going to happen overnight with these municipalities? 27 cities said they need the help. Is that not convincing enough? 27 cities said they need the help. Look at the project. Now, I say this. If you guys took a look at the project that all these municipalities are saying, do the counties have the money to help? And if you notice in the last couple of years, you didn't have many people or the cities coming to you guys requesting for help because this will help them out. What's going to happen when this is defeated? Everybody's going to be marching to the county administrator and you guys to say, we need help. I think we're ignoring that. And I know a lot of it's politics. Don't. I know what time it is. But I'm saying to you guys, you represent the people of Palm Beach County first. And these folks in these municipalities need the help. And when you walk away from this, you got the school district. For the last 30 years, they're putting it on the table. They have those issues. They need the help. But yet we say we're going to give everybody a break. Okay. So in the next 5, 10 years, county commissioners, where you guys going to find the money to help these cities that need the help when they come to you? You already have a shortfall yourself. Where you going to find the monies? I'm being respectful, but also I'm letting you guys know that we're passionate about this because you represent the people in Palm Beach County, and it's not going to happen if you guys walk away. I see it's defeated already, but what are you going to do in the next couple of years?
Mayor Wilson. Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
The residents of Palm Beach County are taxpayers. And property taxes have increased. They're facing insurance increases. And we went to them and said, hey, this was going to be for 10 years. We're going to raise $2.7 billion, and this would end.
But the school district, too, and they're doing it again, right?
But you know what? The school district, that's a different story.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is that for us, as a Board of County Commissioners, as you heard from our board members, the residents needs a break. And that's it.
It's not just the resident commissioners.
But I'm saying these are
the
our
visitors
residents
coming here too, paying
I know,
for it
but
too.
what I'm telling you is that from our perspective, we want to give the residents a tax break. And you know, you can't continue with taxes and taxes and taxes. At some point, if you say it's going to be for 10 years, it's got to be for 10 years. Now, what we're also saying is that we know that transportation needs to be addressed. And we may not all agree in terms of how we're going to fund it or if the whole board will support it. But I think that you heard from our board members that we want to look at transportation, and transportation working with the League of Cities, then we would be able to address some of these city issues that are taking place in District 3 and other places, because we have road needs that needs to be addressed. So I think that what we're looking at is to address something that is comprehensive for the future. But this iteration of this discretionary sales tax, for us as a Board of County Commissioners, we want it to end.
So be it.
Thank you. All right, thank you, sir. Mayor Reed? And then I know Commissioner Barnett, you've had your hand up. If you don't mind if I call on Mayor Reed, and I'll go back to you, sir.
I just have a couple of questions. I guess my mic is not hot. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine.
All right, lovely. Sherry, I have a quick question for you. If the collection for the surtax, if we don't collect all of it by 2025, for short a penny, what happens the following year? How much more money would come in for 26?
So in 2023, we collected $400 million countywide, the 1 penny. So you would think that we're probably going to collect around $400 million a calendar year.
400 million. So we're looking at over 3.2 billion at that point in
So,
time.
I know Commissioner Weiss asked it, and I wasn't thinking at the time, but if we get $400 million a year by 2025, we should have collected around probably $3 billion as a county.
Okay, so there is a chance, if we're short a penny, that the money will come in and there'll be billions coming in afterwards? Or
Millions.
millions, excuse me, I meant to say millions, I apologize. Millions coming in afterwards that will bring us two more. So it may, we don't know, it depends on the collections. So, and we saw your projections that they do go up and down
And so the ordinance says that we have to collect $2.7 billion before September 1 of any given year. And we picked September 1 because I have to tell on October 1st to Department of Revenue whether or not we're making a change to our surtax. So that's where the September 1 came from. And so in 2025, I believe we will have 2.7 billion, and before October 1, I have to tell DOR, we collected the 2.7, we're ending December 31st, 2025. But the surtax is always for a calendar year, so you
Right.
can't stop it in the middle, so
Sure.
that's why they need it by October 1, and really, when I call DOR, they're like, as soon as you know, if you'll tell us, don't wait till October, even though that's what the statute says, please let us know, just so they can gear up.
I appreciate that. And then also regarding this form, this to clarify, because I think we heard from the county assistant administrator that these were all green. The green ones were resolutions. They're not resolutions.
Correct.
They're just voiced
Either
support
support
from
or-
city managers, not from city councils.
I'll let Richard clarify that. That's his document.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's my question. So the green, when we're looking at this, is this a resolution passed by council, or is this the city manager that got on the phone and said, yeah, we'd be into it? Because you represented that West Palm Beach had passed a resolution and they have not.
The ones that said passed resolution are passed resolution of support. So the ones that actually say passed resolution of support
And
are.
support is like a phone call or?
Support is, well, Palm Beach, take Palm Beach Shores. They passed a resolution last night. We didn't get it. We're
Okay.
not going to get it till it's signed. Who knows when we get it? We may
Great.
not get it.
Okay, great. Just the
But
clarity.
They are in the process. None of these is a blatant, bold-faced lie.
Sure,
I mean,
no.
they've all got some form of support, and some of them, because of political reasons, everybody supports, the whole town supports it. But for political reasons, they can't go out there and open themselves up during an election or any time to say, look, I'm supporting as somebody said, it can be sent as a new tax.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. I just wanted the clarification. And then what I'm hearing is we're not receiving the support from the county commission to take this sunsetting tax and continue it. So if that's the case, I would task our Palm Beach County League of Cities with making sure we take the time to reach out to the municipalities that are deeply affected by this to assure that we give you the support and information you need to go after grants for septic to sewer if it was on your list. If you have a roadway that needs help, to help you get transportation alternatives or LI grants from the TPA. So I think that if this is not going to go through today, it's up to us as League of Cities to support our municipalities. If they are unable to finish what they need to take care of their residents, we need to help you do that. And then lastly, instead of this tax being rushed to the ballot, we obviously didn't come to you with a clear enough plan. I do think in listening to you guys talk about consideration of a transportation surtax in the future, that we may want to consider looking into bringing in an outside consultant that could possibly look at a plan. So as we go forward, we don't wind up back in this crux again where we don't have the information, because I haven't heard anything about the Oversight Committee's report on the surtax yet. I haven't heard anything about a campaign about it yet. I haven't heard about the independent information that should have also come provided today. So let's avoid that when we go forward in the future. And that's all.
Thank you so much, Mayor Reed. Commissioner Barnett?
Thanks again, Mayor. I have a couple of questions, but considering the feelings of most of the board, might be moot, but I'm going to ask it anyway. With regards to Commissioner Weiss's question regarding promoting this tax, if we were to approve it, which it looks like it's probably not going to be approved, and if the business community that has supported other referenda in the past with elaborate and expensive campaigns, if they don't have the stomach for it, then what's the likelihood of success? And going to the fact that the school board is pursuing their own half-cent, if this were to be approved by us, we would be asking the supervisor to place 2 tax referenda on the ballot. Has that ever happened before? Have we ever asked the taxpayers to tax themselves twice in one election? And what would be the likelihood of success of our tax competing against the tax meant to benefit school children? I think when it comes to trains and buses versus children, children are going to win. I mean, if I had to choose, I wouldn't want to tax myself twice. And I sincerely sympathize with my friends in the cities. I have very serious infrastructure needs among especially Green Acres and Palm Springs that need to be addressed somehow. But taxing the people who are already overburdened, I can't stomach that.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnett. And Vice Mayor Castro.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Marino observed that it is a small city versus large city concern. When this was first passed, we were in a recession. I think we still have significant inflationary influences. We've all seen increase in construction costs. So from a small city perspective, we're still in the same position. When I first was elected, the town of Lake Park was barely solvent. We couldn't afford to buy a mower for our public works guys to maintain the parks, let alone repair sidewalks. This has been an important funding source for the town of Lake Park. Switching hats on you, as Assistant Village Manager for the Village of Palm Springs, this has been a resource for us to fund park improvements. We've also used it in the planned construction of our police department expansion, which will include an EOC. Those costs have gone from $9 million to $12 million, now to $17.8 million. This is how we were going to fund it. Both my cities, we would support a transportation surtax, but that surtax is limited in how it can be spent. We can't spend it on a police department or on our parks. In Lake Park, we have a mobility fee, and we have a multimodal master plan that prioritizes how we're going to spend this mobility fee. The county needs a transportation plan that's cohesive. My concern is that the TPA doesn't represent all the cities. It doesn't represent the small cities.
That's right.
I agree with Mayor Wilson that the smaller cities, my central cities, we're going to be coming to the county to ask us for infrastructure improvements because we're not going to be able to afford them in the future. So the small cities, especially those of us who are near our millage cap, we are going to need assistance somehow in the future with revenue sources.
Thank you very much, Mayor Castro. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. So just to bring it back around with the transportation, just I wanted to clarify the very first line is for the planning, development, construction, operation, and maintenance of roads and bridges. So it's not just public transportation, mass transportation. I want everyone to understand that, because in private conversations that I've had with other stakeholders, you know, it was made abundantly clear if we move forward with the plan. And by the way, it wasn't clear at the beginning. I do think this is something for 26, not for this cycle. But if we move forward with the plan, we have to have proof to all the voters of the county that the small cities get their share, that there's, you know, whatever it is, however the plan shapes out. I mean, I looked at City of Belglade, you brought yours up. Your number one item on here is bridge replacements at 3.3 million. This right here qualifies for it. So we know for ourselves that roads, bridge replacements, all of that is very expensive. And this even, you know, gives us the operation or the potential for maintenance that we don't have with other plans, because we have to build it, but then we have to pay to maintain it. Or if you get it built on a grant, you have to prove that you can maintain it, which was part of the leveraging that I was talking about, because that's where this becomes leverage. If you get federal or state money for something, you can use this as leverage that you will have the ability to maintain whatever they give you for capital. So it's something that I think that we need to have a lot of discussion on. I think that we need to let this one go for this cycle. I agree with many of my fellow commissioners that it's time to let this one cycle out, but come with a real plan. And it's not going to be mass transportation countywide. That's not a master plan for Palm Beach County. But it is something that every single city has to be a part of. Every single city has to know what's coming and the benefits that's coming for you. And we know that these projects are among the most expensive ones that we have to fund. So I don't want the small cities to feel that you're left out. I have 13 municipalities. I have 3 large ones and a bunch of little ones. You're you know, they're right up the coastline. But it's expensive to fund these types of capital projects and to maintain the roads. We get complaints all the time from people, my road is not up to what it should be. So maintenance of roads is extremely expensive, and this would give us the ability to do that. So I just want everyone to know, I sit here as a county commissioner and pledge to you that I want to work with all the cities and all of our unincorporated area as well, because our people who are out there, they need representation too, as well as maintenance of their roads and traffic. Lyons Road, don't get her started. You know, it's a problem. But I think that this is something, it gives us time to come together and really focus on very expensive projects that we need and our residents want. I say all the time, they don't care if it's a city, county, or state road. They want it to function, they want it to work, and that's our responsibility together to come together and make sure that happens. And we can do that. We have a couple years to put this together. We can present the public with a really good plan that all of us will be proud of. And that's what I want to work with for all of you.
Thank you so much for those encouraging words, Commissioner. Gee, I have 2 and 2 here. So, and Julie, what do you think? I haven't forgotten about it. But why don't we start with Commissioner Weiss, and then we're going to go to City Mayor
Wilson.
City Manager Wilson. Okay, go right ahead.
So,
Mayor, see.
I go back, I don't think anybody answered my question on who is going to be the front for the IST. So I haven't heard an answer for that. Maybe you don't have an answer today. Maybe it's something you can find, but at this point, I haven't heard an answer to that question. I think, one of the things I think we all talked about when the IST was first passed, a lot of our sales tax gets paid for by visitors, right? So I think roughly about a third of our tax revenues comes from our visitors that visit us, and which is great. That takes some of the burden off of our local taxpayers to help fund some of the projects. But if we were to do an IST, a transportation surtax, in moving forward, as was mentioned, we're going to get the 30% from our visitors, but then we can leverage it and potentially double it with other dollars from the federal and state, which is really, then we're really doing something for our community and helping to support the needs of the community, which hopefully then frees up other monies for both the county and for our municipal partners to be able to do some of the other projects that you all need to do. We've talked, I think, ad nauseum about the fact that, of what we said to the taxpayers about what the IST was going to be, and understand, and trust me, we understand, we had to rework our budget to figure out how to finish off our projects because of the increased costs. We saw our costs have gone up like everybody else's. We're not immune to it. So, but we had to get creative. Our staff was able to get creative and figure out how we could balance that out, and over the next few years finish out the projects that we had promised that we were going to be able to complete with the IST. It is. And I think we're all empathetic. We're all dealing with these same challenges together. I just think that, at the end of the day, we need to be looking forward. A lot of what I see on the IST is stuff from the past, and maybe we didn't get it done. But that's backwards. We need to be looking as far forward to put ourselves in the right footing for what's happening in the next couple of years, but what's going to happen in the next 30 or 40 or 50 years of how this county, how your cities, how we're all going to be able to have the best possible life, have the best economic environment. And I really think we need to be focused on another type of support, which is going to be our transportation system, and having that dedicated funding source for it.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Mayor Wilson, you're recognized.
Well, thank you. I don't want anybody to get it twisted. I respect the will of this body, of the county commissioners. If you guys decide you don't want to support it, by all means, nothing's going to change my respect and relationship I have for you guys. I want to be clear about that. But two things I want to make also. Kim said something that was very interesting. If you guys do a study or do an analysis, and this is not about the TPA, but I want to make sure that y'all understand. I'm like the grandpa in the room. I've been a part of that for 20 years. The smaller cities do get left behind. We've been talking about lights in the Glades for 15 years. And when I hear you guys making these comments, well, we'll just go to the T-Bay and get the monies. Well, it just don't work that easy. We got a new chairperson, so maybe she can change things around. I'm hoping, I have confidence that you would do that. The last thing I would say, just keep in mind, Madam Administrator, and to all these board members, that now you're going to have the flood zone again of your cities coming to you with their needs of capital improvement. So it seems to me we're kicking the can now, and knowing in the next year or two, you're going to still have the same problem with these cities that need capital improvement. And how is that going to change? Right now, it's not. I mean, you can apply for grant. We apply for grants all the time. But this was a way out. But I respect the will of this body. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And I'll end, just 1 second, Commissioner Baxter. Would you like to go, sir?
Sure, no problem.
All right.
The
Manager Campbell for the record.
First, let me ask. No, I must state, as a city manager, amongst the policymakers in this room, I'm a little scared, but I'm gonna caution my words and say what I still have to say. Have we done any calculations as to what the average person over the past 9 years, 8 years have done or paid into the surtax? Just my simple calculation, if we do the 2.7 billion over the per person, is averaging $250 to $300 per person. That's just, again, I'm not a mathematician, not a finance person, just a little city manager. So you got that $250 per person, $300 per person, and for some, that's a huge break. But that's over a 10-year period where that person is paid in. Now, we've turned around and supported a $200 million bond for homes, residents are going to have a hard time getting to those homes without the proper infrastructure. One difference in the transportation surtax and the infrastructure surtax is May. That is a major difference. The transportation surtax, the county may support or share. And I know that won't happen here in Palm Beach County. That will be a shall in Palm Beach County. But in accordance to the statute, it reads may. The local infrastructure surtax is, we agree upon the share before it's adopted. So I don't want to get into the splitting the hairs, because our fearless county administrator would do just what her board directs her to do. At the same time, I understand, have an understanding of the may and shall. That is one of the major differences we cannot overlook as we move any of the surtaxes forward. But we've all sat around the table today, and we want to give the taxpayer a break. We want to give them a break. But in the same breath, we've turned around and said, oh, we're going to talk about a transportation surtax. If we're going to give a break, let's give a break. Let's just give the break, period. Let's take a 10-year hiatus of surtaxes. Nothing that I would support. I didn't agree with the $200 million bond, and I would say that here, understanding the community that I serve. But I didn't want my property taxes to increase. However, I understood the need. So, again, if we're going to give the residents a break, let's just give them a break. And that the little word, may and shall, those things are important as we move any surtax forward. But mostly the transportation surtax, that's a may share with the municipalities and not a shall share with the municipalities. So, but I'm going to hold everything else that I've written down here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that, Manager. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. My question's for the attorney. Do we have any flexibility? I was looking at the ballot language in the presentation, and the voters voted that this would end December 31st, 2026. Now, I know we had to send our ordinance and paperwork to the state. Do we have any flexibility of allowing this to just go to that date for our small cities at all?
So there is also the $2.7 billion.
I understand.
So there's no flexibility going
It's just,
beyond.
we are where we are.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor Marino.
My goodness. Just an observation. The development community has been the largest payer of this, and since we've had so much development going on. So by letting this sunset, the development community actually gets a little bit of a break, which means that the end users, the small businesses, the residents, should hopefully, the developers that are in the room, realize the savings too, because any tax that a developer pays gets put back to the end user, which is us. So again, I'm not in favor. I think that's the sentiment for the day. And with that.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Would you like, I'm going to now recognize our President Botel. Go right ahead,
Thank
President.
you. I just wanted to give an opportunity for any league members who haven't spoken yet, if they'd wish to make a comment, and if not.
I'll just add.
Go right ahead. Could you state your name for the record?
Molly Young, Mayor of DeQuesta. I'll just add, honestly, everything I wanted to say has been said, and the conversation seems to be leaning towards a transportation tax. I would just, and this would be something we need to bring back to our board to discuss how we would like to take the next steps. But pending what, the board wants to do, I would like to encourage education sooner than later and starting the conversation sooner than later, because there is a sentiment out there right now that the small cities are going to be left out, that they're not going to get money. I mean, I'm in DeQuesta, all in North County. It's like, well, we did a complete street. It's underutilized. We looked to put a palm tree on stop, and it was way too expensive. And who's going to use it? We looked to add a rideshare service. Again, we really couldn't justify setting aside the funds for that. And I think like the county may distribute. That's what's making everyone nervous. So I would just really encourage education sooner than later and start the conversation sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you again, commissioners and league members who are here today. I really appreciate the time that it's. Do we have somebody else? I'm sorry.
Yeah, he.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your
It's
card.
okay. Listen, we're all taxpayers. We know that, and we know the break that we would get is not as large as was pointed out as what you might think over that 10-year time period. So I think instead of focusing on giving the taxpayers a break, maybe we should focus on the good that they're getting from it.
Absolutely.
Think of all the positive projects that are being done. In my town, the little town of Pipeluxo, we have a project of going from septic to sewer. And we're using some of the monies from infrastructure to be able to fund that project. And that helps everybody in this county. It protects our water resources. It protects, it's just a benefit to everybody. So instead of focusing on the small amount of taxes every taxpayer may realize, we ought to focus on all the benefits that they are going to get from the projects that are being proposed by each of these individual cities.
Thank you, Mayor. And so as I was saying, thank you for hearing us. We got your message loud and clear. There are a couple of other items on this agenda, transportation and workforce housing. I'm hopeful that we can meet again on those topics. Perhaps Ms. Baker can work with Mr. Radcliffe and come up with another date when we can get together. We do love to speak with you. Sometimes
always love to hear
it's not news that's accepted pleasantly by all of us, but we're appreciative of the time that you spent with us today. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much, President Botel, and thank you all the members of the League of Cities who are here today. I want to thank my colleagues, and don't put your stuff away back yet. Just hold on for a second. And I just want to say that as the mayor of this county, I am proud of the discussion that we had today. It was an open discussion. It was at times emotional, but the questions were good. They were based on good observations of what all our taxpayers are facing. And I think that we always need to remember this is a regressive tax that applies to everybody in the county who pays for any item other than those that have been exempt, which is duly noted. But I think that we always have to remember that no matter what, the county is made up of cities.
Yeah.
And the cities are made up of people.
That's right.
And that is our main concern. That so no matter what you heard today, President Botel, it was an open discussion. It was a frank, candid discussion. And I think that I look forward to some further discussions like we had today. But no matter what, every county commissioner represents people. Every person here, except for my particular county, we have cities. And if we don't take care of our cities, we're not taking care of the county.
Amen.
Right? So I just want you to know we will continue this discussion. And I was very, very impressed by everybody speaking up today. I hope everybody had the opportunity to speak. I think they did. And with that, we are adjourned, but I want to remind my colleagues you need to stay here. We still have unfinished business from earlier today. So thank you so much. Thank you.
A Florida Highway Patrol state trooper was struck from behind.
It only takes seconds for a devastating accident to happen.
In this case, both the driver and the trooper were injured.
When you see lights flashing on the side of the road, you need to move over, and if you can't move over, slow down and use caution.
Our emergency workers must operate in a dangerous area.
So follow the law and give us some space.
It's for your safety and ours.
Many people consider Florida to be the boating capital of the world, with more than 40,000 registered boats in Palm Beach County alone. It's important to know that items found on boats can be a potential hazard to marine life if not properly disposed of. Boat items such as flares, fire extinguishers, deep cycle batteries, mercury float switches, and even cleaning products should never be thrown away with your regular garbage. These items can be dropped off at one of 7 Solid Waste Authority home chemical and recycling centers. Visit swa.org/HCRC.
Lithium batteries that are disposed of irresponsibly are a fire hazard. These batteries are found in common products like talking greeting cards and medical equipment. Do your part and a fire won't start. For disposal locations, visit swa.org/LIB.
Do you own a business? Maybe you know someone who does. Did you know Palm Beach County is business friendly? With a population of over 1.5 million residents, Palm Beach County is rich with the diversity of small businesses. As an owner of a small or medium-sized business, you may have asked yourself, how do I get involved in doing business and becoming a vendor directly with Palm Beach County? In this video, with the help of the Office of Equal Business Opportunity, we'll take a look at multiple departments and what they're looking for in terms of goods and services. These range from our purchasing department, PalmTran, water utilities, and many others. And in the last segment, you'll see a direct how-to on the basics to